Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Eric Hernandez here along with
Doug.
And on tonight's show, we're going to do a little experiment. We're going to jump this one ahead of the other episodes. If you've been listening for quite some time, you know there's a backlog of shows I'm trying to get into, edit, clean up, and get ready for posting. It's really just time on my end where I have to figure it out how that all works. I'm been delayed, so I apologize. Thank you for the emails and questions. The show is still happening. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to put this episode ahead of the other ones just to keep people, just to keep the line going. So people don't keep asking me, hey, what happened to the show? On this episode, we're going to talk about the latest debut of WWE Monday Night Raw on Netflix. It's being referred to as the Netflix era. You can check out the show on Netflix itself. It's now streaming, so you can catch up whenever you want. And they're going to have WWE Vault content added for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and probably some other archival content. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But we talk about the new debut on Netflix specifically, and some of the different lead-ups to WrestleMania in the season that has begun already. It officially kicks off with the Royal Rumble, which they're already getting geared up for. Sorry, for some reason, I'm losing my breath. But that's all to say, we are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can check us out over the various different sections: games, comics, movies, TV, wrestling. Check us out over at Rabblecast.libsyn.com, where the show is always uploaded. You can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Rabblecast. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast on X. Email us, rabblecast@gmail.com, and check out the Rabblecast Facebook fan page as I make different posts and updates for the show. I know I've been very lax on that recently. Trust me, I've been busy. But as always, if you want to catch up on past shows, we are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so you can always see what's going on over there. But for the time being, this one's going to leapfrog over the other ones. Trust me, I've got more than a handful of shows waiting in the can. So we'll see how quick I can get those up. I've been working on them. But without further delay, do you have anything to add, sir?
No.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk wrestling on Netflix. Enjoy the show.
All right. That was 10 seconds, right?
Yes, sir. Ready to go.
All right. Here we are. All right. It's a new year. It's a new day. No, we already did a New Year's episode. Never mind. Well, shit. Yeah, you know what I mean.
You gotta love these cold opens.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do like the old style where we would just start talking and I would just hit the button and then partway through be like, are you recording? Yes, I am.
Hey, the dick method actually worked, so why not? Why not?
Yeah, well, it has its moments here and there. We'll see what happens. Nothing's ever defined on this show.
No shit.
So, oh man, how's your week going?
Exhausting, frustrating, but overall not terrible.
All right. New Year's so far treating you well?
Like 5 pounds of shit in a 3-pound bag.
Okay, there you go. So, not much has changed. No, I'm doing pretty well so far. I really can't complain. It's funny because today I actually had a conversation with one of my coworkers, and reflecting on where we currently are, how the shop's going, and everything else. And it's funny because they have gone through hell in the past. They've had past management who did them no favors, damaged relationships with the front office, all that kind of stuff. But now they're becoming a little bit more optimistic. And I don't know if that's because they are liking the new management change or whatever the case is. I'd like to think that I'm adding a little bit of levity with my humor in the shop as well as getting stuff done. But overall, it's just like, all right, we went through a lot of nonsense, but hopefully now things are picking it up. So it's give or take. when the wife asks me every day, how's work going? I'm like, oh, it's going pretty well. It's steady. I can't complain. Things are keep me busy. At the same time, I'm trying to lift up everybody's spirits by having a fun time. So,
all right,
you do what you can with what you got, because otherwise, what the fuck. Well, let's just jump right into this one, because truth be told, you and I were having a little text exchange before the show started. For anybody who doesn't know, if this is your first time listening, I might actually hot shot this episode before the ones that are still sitting in the can. And again, for anybody joining in for their first episode, because it's something that I took from comic books. You always have to treat each episode that we're doing as if somebody was going to listen to it for the first time, if that's somebody's entry point. I take that from comic books and the late, great Stan Lee. So we try to make it accessible for everybody as much as possible. You don't have to know everything that we've done in the past, but hey, if you're a fan that's been around for quite some time, thank you. If you're joining for the first time, welcome aboard, and hang on. I wanted to talk about the recent debut of WWE's Monday Night Raw on Netflix.
Yes.
And the fact that now they're referring to it as, it sounds so gaudy, but they're referring to it as the Netflix era. Did you catch the show at all?
No.
Do you have a Netflix subscription currently?
Yeah, but I can only access it on my computer because of that stupid bullshit restriction they put on the thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for anybody who hasn't seen it, if you want, it's currently on Netflix. You can easily go and stream it, whatever the case is. It starts off, and they're in, I believe it was in Los Angeles. They had
the Intuit Center.
Yes, thank you. They had this, I don't know how you want to call it, like a tarp or a sheet or something like that, on coming down from the rafters, covering all four sides of the ring. So from ceiling to floor, they had like a viewing screen, essentially. And on each four of those sides, they projected the imagery that I guess would have been like on the Titantron, but they didn't have a Titantron proper. They had a smaller stage. And they said that they're probably going to be doing this going forward, which is kind of nice. But they had this whole thing with Triple H running down the history, and they actually used terms that they would never have used had Vince McMahon still been in the driver's seat. They use face, they say heel, they talk about, the wrestling world and how it's developed. And then finally, like I said, they refer to it as the Netflix era. When the show started, pyro went off, the sheet came down, Triple H was in the middle of the ring, addressed the audience, everybody was having a good time. And then my son and I were watching. He was really excited for the debut because they've been promoting it like crazy, and well, their promotion worked on him. So he's like, Dad, can we watch it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't see why not. It's a lot more accessible now. I don't have to stream it from my phone to my TV. It's been a while since I've even turned on the cable box in this house. So we're moving further and further away from cable, but it seems like in this case, Netflix is the way to go. The first person to debut outside of Triple H on the main roster, or I should say main show, where their music went off and they came down to the ring, was The Rock. Mm-hmm. And I crack up because my son's like, look, it's Dwayne Johnson. I'm like, he's known as The Rock, buddy. He's just known as Dwayne Johnson to my son because of all the memes and all the online YouTube channels. It's kind of silly. But he comes down, he talks about the show, and he's setting it all up, and I'm like, wow, this is like, just feeling pretty good. Like, it's a good way to kick off the show and see what happens. And if you watch it, it's a 3-hour show. The first half hour, there were no ads. As soon as that first half hour was up, ad kicked right in. I'm thinking like, oh, this is weird. On Netflix, we're getting ads.
Oh, what kind of ads did they run?
It was a mixed bag. They had ads for other Netflix shows or projects that were in development. So it was whether like a series or a movie, whatever the case is. But then they had some regular ads as well, which kind of confuses me a little bit, because I know if you watch something online as opposed to watching it on TV, the ads that they serve up are a little bit different, a little bit more targeted. On TV, they're a little bit more spread out because it's an old style system. But online, they I guess they have fewer advertisers or fewer types of advertisement. But this time around, it started off kind of similar to television. I was like, wow, this is kind of odd. And then, what was it? I made note of this just because I was curious how it was going to go. At 8:30, they had their first commercial break. They came back. They had another segment. And then they had another commercial break. And I was like, 7 minutes after that, so 8:30 and 8:37 were their first two ads. I was like, okay, we're gonna get ads regardless. This is what it is. The show itself was 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this isn't bad. We got 4 matches altogether.
That I read, and that's at first I thought, oh wow, 4 matches in a 2-hour show, that's pretty bad. But then I heard it was 3 fucking hours, and I said, I'm kind of glad I didn't bother watching it.
Yeah, and this is where it's good that it's on streaming, because you can literally just scrub through whatever segment you don't want to watch. Debuting on Netflix, I figured let's just watch the whole thing from start to finish, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm older at this point, but the show didn't grab me as much as it grabbed some other audience members. A lot of people said they liked the show. It was fun. The matches are great. Some people were complaining about the fact that there were only 4 matches and they should have showcased more people. But I'm thinking to myself, if you're a WWE fan, you know who's on the roster. You know who's on the card. You're excited for it. The 4 matches were, oh gosh, let's see. They opened up with Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa. Later they gave you, I think it was Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan.
Yes. Then
it was Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. And then they main evented with CM Punk and Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
That card alone, you're like, oh, that sounds like a really good card. If it was a 2-hour show, again, you're right, would have been fantastic. But then they said it was a 3-hour show, and they kept going, and they gave you more segments. They talked about other upcoming shows and everything else. I'm thinking to myself, okay, this isn't bad. Like, they're spreading this out as much as they can. They're bringing in other people. They brought in The Rock. They had other mentions. They wanted to make sure that they had some help from the old school roster to promote everything. So it was going pretty well, and I was surprised. There was a number of different celebrities in the audience, sports figures and everything else. They were the other people on the roster itself from WWE, just checking out the show and having fun, whatever the case was. And then by the end of it all, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, that wasn't like the greatest show ever, but it was a fun night. I don't know if the audience was a good gauge of it altogether, because again, it's a different type of show. The one thing that really stood out to me is they have their different camera angles, but then they had a drone flying through the arena, which I kept thinking to myself, all it takes is one person to throw something at the damn drone and it's out of the sky. But they got some interesting shots with it, even within the arena itself, where all the concession stands and everything else was. They do a few shots from outside. They had some drones outside of the venue, forming the logos and different signs of the different wrestlers, which I thought was a nice touch. The one thing that really stood out for this night, though, was 2 different people who showed up at different times and the reactions to them. So the controversy that happened here was they had Hulk Hogan show up. And
yeah.
As soon as he showed up, as soon as you saw the yellow and red flash in the little entry screen that they had set up, the crowd just started booing immediately. And even I had the reaction of, oh, come on, really? And here he comes down the little walkway with Jimmy Hart in tow. Jimmy was waving the flag, and you can see that Hulk actually had some kind of reaction to the fact he was getting booed. And I think somebody was trying to tell me, I was like, oh, it's like 50-50, the reaction. I'm like, no, that's a pretty hateful reaction he's getting right now. Nobody wants him there right now. But he went through it. He got through his whole thing. It took me a while to even realize he was wearing the American made beer or whatever it was that he's now advertising. But he got booed pretty much out of the arena. So that was a quick segment. And then later on, after, spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched the new Raw, Rhea won over Liv, so she's the new women's champion. And as she's walking out, the gong goes off and Undertaker shows up. Biker Taker, I should say. Comes down, does a lap around the ring, comes back, and then poses with Rhea in the entryway. And they have a nice little, wrestling moment in history. Which, by all accounts, people were going crazy because Taker was back. Even if it was just for a fleeting moment, he came back and gave props to Rhea. And it was a fun little moment. It looked like Rhea was like a little fangirl at the time as well. It was kind of cool. And people are comparing the two moments, saying that, Hulk Hogan got booed because he was a Trump supporter. And he was at the RNC and everything else. And people don't like him. Okay, that's one way to look at it. But let's not forget, Undertaker and Kane supported Trump when he was doing his run for office. So nobody was booing him when he showed up to support Rhea. So it's not political.
Hulk Hogan's a piece of shit. Yeah,
exactly. It's not political in the political sense. Maybe political in the wrestling sense. Okay. Yeah. No, I think now the cat's out of the bag with Hulk Hogan. Again, I'm not here to yuck your yum. If you're a Hulk Hogan fan, if you're a Hulkamaniac, don't get me wrong. I was when I was growing up. I looked up to the guy and, take your vitamins, say your prayers, and all that stuff. He was wrestling, the face of wrestling for a long time. The difference is, and a lot of people are pointing this out, and I think this is awesome that it's finally being brought to attention, is Hulk Hogan wasn't there to support anybody. Hulk Hogan was there to get a paycheck.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan came out promoting his own beer. Just wanted to get in front of the cameras. Wanted to have fun. Jimmy Hart, I believe, just was having a blast. I don't. To this point, I don't have anything good or bad to say about Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart is a wrestling icon as far as managers are concerned, so he's kind of like by the wayside in this case. But no, there's a reason why Hulk Hogan's getting booed, and that's because now people are starting to realize the Hulk, his history of just putting himself over constantly, is tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are just finally fed up with it. On the other hand, The Undertaker, who for a long time has been an attraction for the WWE, especially since one of the great things that Vince McMahon did was later in Taker's career, used him less and less, made him an attraction, made him a must-see performer. So he wasn't always on the show, not week after week. When you would hear it was a leak of, The Undertaker's going to debut tonight because he's going to, or not debut, but be on the show tonight so that he can set up his next storyline or feud for WrestleMania or whatever other pay-per-view he was going to be appearing at. You were excited, like, what's going to happen here? Because you knew at that point Taker was in the gym, Taker was getting ready, and Taker was going to put his body on the line for whatever match he was going to have with whoever it was. His last few matches outside of the one Crown Jewel match against Goldberg were pretty damn good, only because you realized that Taker was giving you everything he had. He realized, hey, look, I'm not wrestling every week, every show. So when I go out there, it better look good.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of his bombs, like you got to give the guy some credit, because whether it was a concussion, a botched move, or, just things just didn't play out the way they were hoping to, he still went out there and gave it his all. I mean, the guy went to the hospital after numerous matches at the end of his career because they just wanted to play it safe. But I find it really funny, the reactions that Hulk Hogan and Undertaker got. And people are saying, you don't understand if you're not watching the show. And like, you don't have to watch the show. I mean, the one thing now with Raw on Netflix is the fact that the history of wrestling is being exposed to a wider audience now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of my coworkers recently was watching the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix, which, looking back on it right now, is kind of a genius move on Netflix's part to release that documentary just to whet the appetite of the WWE fans leading up to the debut of Raw. Because if you didn't know what was going on in the world of wrestling, that gave you a good idea. Granted, the whole controversy was a different story. I'm sure it got more people's attention for the wrong reasons, but they got people saying, oh, what's this? What's going on? When does this happen? But now you have that subscriber base that literally after, a few button presses on your remote or on your phone, you can watch WWE. And I'm hoping going forward, my son is also asking to watch SmackDown, which is still, as far as I know, on cable TV. I don't think it's on streaming anywhere particularly. But I was just like, okay, yeah, we can check that one out as well. I'm not as keen to check that one out. Let's face it, SmackDown's always been the B show, even though they tried to make it stand on its own. That's going to be difficult because you know that Netflix is going to want all their superstars. They're going to want the top talent on Raw, the flagship show, as always. So I want to see how this carries going forward. One night's great, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. But what was it? $5 billion was the deal for Monday Night Raw.
Something like that. It was a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah. So I believe it was $5 billion for 10 years. At the 5-year point, they have the option to cut and run if things aren't going the way they want it to go. But by all accounts right now, we're in another... I'm not going to say the Netflix era. We're definitely in another boom for wrestling. It's not all across the board with different companies, but more people want to watch wrestling. There's more product out there right now than most people know what to do with. Between WWE, AEW, TNA, and some of the smaller organizations out there. There's a lot of places for people to perform, to show up, do their thing, hone their craft, and then hopefully make it to whatever big league they want and go from there. I think the other day I was watching AEW is now showing up on Max, being that it's part of the Warner Brothers and Discovery partnership. So they have a platform there. Cool. Like, I'm all for it. I love the competition. I want to see more of it. If it means that WWE has to keep pushing more and more, we're going to be getting some great matches coming up. We're already into the full WrestleMania swing. They're setting up. They're leading into the Royal Rumble, so I want to see what's going to play out there. People already have speculation and thoughts and rumors and predictions. Cool. Like, this is all great things. So I want to see how this plays out. But for everybody who watched the show, they're like, oh, it was a great show. It was a so-so show. Look, they're on Netflix. Let's not look over the obvious. They fucking made it to like the most mainstream that they could get right now.
Yeah.
They're on the internet at this point, and what's to stop them now? So, really, the sky's the limit. It's theirs to fuck up at this point. I don't see Netflix putting many restrictions on them. I know they said they're still going to be PG because they want to try to be as accessible to as big of an audience as they can be. But people are watching Netflix, let's face it. Like, as much as you might hate the fact that, oh, Netflix just raised the price again, or Netflix is taking away certain movies, or Netflix only showcases their stuff. Okay, you can hem and haw about Netflix all you want. Truth of the matter is, they are the brand when it comes to streaming. Everybody else is playing catch up to them.
Yep.
Whether I would say Amazon Prime Video is the second closest as far as platform. And then every other streaming platform is trailing behind. In fact, I would say, and this is just, off the top of my head, I'd say Amazon Prime Video and Disney Plus. And then after that is a bunch of smaller platforms. So for them to be there and for them to have that be their go-to now, that's their stage. That's where they can apply their craft. That's where they can show the fans what's happening. They're doing another Saturday Night Main Event in a couple weeks. Royal Rumble's coming up. They have 2025 going crazy. We talked about them doing their PLEs now going to be 2-night events for the Big Four. I don't know if it's a smart idea to do it for all of the PLEs every month. But to see all these superstars go out there, to see everybody get a chance to shine for that big of an audience. I mean, yeah, they're performing in front of an arena. I think it was like 17,000 at the Intuit Arena. But worldwide, millions. All at, in their homes, on their mobile devices. So, it's... I know we said when Vince left, or he was outed, it was a big boom for the company. It seemed like there was a big turnaround last year, but it seems like now, especially, they've hit another rung on the ladder, and I don't know if they're going to stop anytime soon. So, if you're a wrestling fan, awesome. If you're sick and tired of it, turn it off and go watch something else because it's going to be around for a while. It's funny to hear casual people talk about wrestling now. Like, oh, I saw this other thing on the online the other day. My son was talking about this, or my daughter was watching that, and it's like, hey, look, they've reached mainstream, and it's a lot bigger than it was back during the Monday Night Wars. So I remember. Did you ever notice this when we were watching Monday Night Wars back in the day? And if you walked into the store and you'd see, WCW wrestlers on the cover of magazines, or WWE wrestlers or WWF at the time, getting more and more attention and doing like guest appearances on TV shows. There was definitely that boom during the Monday Night Wars, but now it seems to have definitely penetrated the mainstream a lot more. What do you think?
What do you mean? I don't follow.
Like, as far as like the boom from the early 2000s, like back when Goldberg had his undefeated streak going on, and we had the peak of the Monday Night Wars.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we're ever going to truly have another Monday Night War situation.
No.
But now the way it's going, it just seems like we've hit critical mass once again with wrestling, and it seems to be moving in an upward direction.
Well, here it's tough to compare the two, in my opinion. You got so at the peak of things back in the 1990s, Eric Bischoff was purposely he said his mission, he wanted to put WWF out of business. That's what his sole game was. That's why they launched Monday Nitro. That's why they did everything that they went out and did. I don't necessarily think that's what Tony Khan's up to. I think you can have two different wrestling promotions out there. In fact, if anything, it's good. Just for my simple fact of the matter that it's giving wrestlers different places to go work. I think of how Kevin Owens, I don't know if he had any intention of actually going to AEW, but all he had to do was tease it, and it gave him like an extra bit of leverage in their negotiations a couple of years ago when he re-signed his last contract.
Yep.
So I look at it like this. Competition's fine, especially in wrestling. There can be, if WWE wants to be like, oh, we're going to be like more Flash, and we're going to be more Blitz, and we're going to be more of the storyline company, that's cool, go watch that. I'm perfectly content with AEW saying it's like, okay, we're going to be the work rate promotion. We're not going to be as focused on storyline, but you're going to have a lot more technical matches. You're going to have some bloody ass, crazy ass brawls, and you're going to have all kinds of shit like that. So, nothing wrong with that. You can have room for both. In fact, actually, for a long time, that was kind of the position that WCW had right around the time they were transitioning from when they went from Jim Crockett Promotions to WCW. So I think that's fine with it. I mean, competition's good. Are we in a boom period? I don't know how you'd want to quantify that. Do you want to base that on revenue or anything like that? I'm not exactly sure. I know WWE's making money hand over fist right now.
That's very true.
Yeah, I haven't checked anything precisely, so to speak, but last I heard, AEW, rumor is they're actually operating in the black right now. I don't know if that's the case. They're privately held, so they don't have to publish any financial statements. So, but I don't know. But I mean, based on just that, like, I know a lot of their events are it's very hard to get tickets for a lot of their events at this point, and I'd say that's probably a good thing. So, hey, we'll see where it goes. I'm at a point where newer wrestling is of not as much of an interest to me. So I'm a very casual fan for that nowadays. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm kind of watching from a distance.
I was in the same boat as you. If it wasn't for my son asking to watch more and more, which I'm more than welcome to oblige. Again, if have been listening to the show for a long time, there was a point in time where I was week in, week out, living and breathing wrestling, because I was not only getting information on what's going on in the wrestling world and reporting on it, as we talked about on here, but I was also on the independent scene, traveling to different shows throughout New Jersey, and some out of state. So for me, it was like I was all in, and it got to a point where I got oversaturated, where I was like, I'm just getting fed up with this. It also got to the point where the WWE product was so heavily criticized for the way that they were booking and the way they were using the performers and how quickly storylines were being used up. It was a weird time. And if you go back and watch some of the stuff from the, I guess like 2010s might be a good example of that.
Oh, you're talking the era of Super Cena?
Yeah. Well, that's the good way to put it, but yes. It was just the style of booking was different, so much so that like when TNA was doing their booking style, people were confused. Like you actually had clean finishes, you actually had good guys winning, you actually had people getting pushed in certain directions. That all changed when they changed up their booking style down the line. But it was funny to see the contrast and the comparison between them, TNA at the time. Ring of Honor did a short run for being really competitive, where they almost had a chance, and then AEW came along. Like all those things, like it just got to a point where I got tired of reporting and reading the same thing over and over again. And let's face it, everybody has a wrestling podcast at this point, so it became to the point where it's like, all right, no, let's just switch up gears a little bit, and we drifted away and went more pop culture. Now I kept watching only same as you, from a distance. I would read results. I'd see highlights. Botchamania was one of my favorite things to check out, just to keep up with some of the silliness that was going on. I'd watch some of the big four pay-per-views just because I was curious. And then I guess the one channel that I watch from time to time, WrestleLamia. They on YouTube, they do a good rundown of like daily reporting. I'm like, all right, this is kind of like what I was trying to go for, but they're hitting it more on the head, quick, simple, and getting to it with a few other videos expounding upon certain subjects. But I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And then when they started having their boom again, people started coming back. The newer superstars are being pushed to the top. NXT stars are getting signed over from the NXT roster to the main roster, and then you saw a shift. And whether that coincided with Vince leaving the company or being outed, it's hard to say. But now that TKO is in the driver's seat, now that they let Triple H do a lot of the booking, Shawn Michaels does NXT, it's weird to see this changeover. Like it does feel like a fresher product.
Mm-hmm.
So to get some of that going, it's great. We're getting some old matches that we wanted to see for quite some time. The fact that CM Punk might actually get to main event WrestleMania this year is still kind of shocking to me.
Really?
I'm taking the wait and see approach, because last year he had a shot of doing it, but then he got injured. Rumor is at the end of the match on Monday Night Raw, he might have messed up his knee.
Oh man, I hate to laugh because I kind of do like Punk. But if he gets hurt again now and can't do Mania again, I'm going to laugh my balls off.
Yeah, at this point, his body's betraying him.
Well, he's not exactly the most athletic dude in the world, and he's a year older than me, so he's pushing 47. So, yeah, he might, the motherfucker might, like, get your Mania match in anyway. Even if he was like, I can't do a match before Mania, I'll go out there and do Mania, because that theoretically could very well be his last match.
Yeah. There's even a rumor right now. Again, this is all speculation, so take it with a grain of salt. He wanted to do a one-on-one match with whoever, made sense at the time, but they might have to split it into a three-way.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, he even at one point, gosh, what show was it? One of the Manias, he said he would want to go out there. I think it was one of the Rock and Cena matches, where he's like, I want to be involved, and they're like, no, this is all them.
Yeah, he wanted to be. That was Mania in 2013 because that was right after Punk dropped the title at the Royal Rumble to The Rock because they were gearing up for a Rock Cena rematch. It was either 2013 or 2014. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
But yeah, he even said he was like, put me in the match, make it a three-way, and beat me in the first, like, have them both hit their finishers on me and pin me in the first 20 minutes, and then make it out in a singles match. And they shouted that, they poo-pooed that and said, no, you're going to go have a match with Triple H. And that's around the time where he was like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm out. Oh, no, pardon me. No, 2013. That was the year he lost to Taker.
Okay, yes. And
yeah, he lost to Taker because then the next year he was supposed to be. That's when they're like, "Oh, you're going to have a match with Triple H," and that's when he was like, "I don't want to wrestle Triple H."
Yeah, but if you have the Taker match, that's usually like the benchmark of like, okay, now you can hang in the main event. Because even Triple H at WrestleMania 17 proved that at that point he could go. Which before that, I would have said, oh, he would have been a shoo-in for that kind of thing. But I guess you had to have the stamp of approval from the backstage crew. So, I don't know.
I don't know. Don't ask me to. If you're asking me to understand Vince McMahon's methodology, I don't think Vince McMahon understood what the fuck he was doing because I think that was the first point when he was starting to really kind of. That was early to mid 70s Vince. I think he was already starting to kind of slip off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the method to his madness is just that. It was madness. So we can sit here and talk about that all night long and not get anywhere. But
yeah.
No, yeah, with Punk, the fact that he was willing to essentially job just to say, hey, look, I'm main eventing. He's not looking for a win. He was just looking to go out there and perform on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And you can't blame the guy. But last year getting injured during the Royal Rumble, this year potentially his knee having trouble. If you go back and watch the clip, when he does the GTS on Rollins, he does 2 in a row. The second one, he's like going to get up off of his knees. And at first he's trying to sell it. Like he's, pushing for it as he's going to stand up. But all of a sudden you see like his one knee kind of buckle. And then he says immediately, oh, fuck it. And he just stands right up. And he pulls the move off. As Rollins hits the floor, Punk just like drapes over him, gets the count, and then rolls over and grabs the ref, pulls him close, and starts talking to him to the point where like, I can't stand up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, like they better take care of him if they want him to main event a Mania or be involved in Mania. I think if they go, it would be funny if they go with the same plan of, hey, let's just put him in a 3-way. Let's have him get squashed in the beginning and just get rid of him. Like let him have his shine and then pin him or knock him out, whatever the case is, and make it a one-on-one match from there. That'd be great. That'd work out still, and he can still have his moment in the sun and say, look, I main evented Mania. I was there on the grandest stage of them all. That's been his dream, his goal for the longest time. So give the damn man his flowers.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it happens. And like I said, right now, what's happening right now is all the speculation is back. All the excitement is starting to ramp up again, especially because we're in WrestleMania season. I'm excited. I want to see what happens. What was it, like a 2-night event all over again? So we'll see what goes on from there. Royal Rumble's coming up. It's my favorite pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever you want to call it. Women's Rumble, Men's Rumble. I think it's great. Like now is a really, really good time to be a wrestling fan. To see all these people go out there and perform and have fun. Let's go for it. Let's ramp it up. Let's have a party and see what we can do. But we're going to see how long the wave lasts.
Yeah.
It's not forever. There's going to be ebb and flow. There's going to be some slowdown. We'll see. But the fact that it's going this way, I'm excited for them. So, what was the last show, not Raw or SmackDown, what was the last big card that you saw, be it premium live event or other, for WWE?
The last thing I watched, start to finish was the Rumble last year.
Okay.
Because I get together with a group of people and we put money on it.
Okay,
and,
yes.
Yeah, we did a whole thing where, $5 in, Depending on how many people are there, you kind of like break it out so everybody gets X number of numbers, and if your number wins the match, you get the pot. We do that for the men's and women's Rumble, of course. And I watched a couple of pieces of Mania back in April, which, I mean, it wasn't a great show. It wasn't a bad show. It was just a very... Cody Rhodes, it will never be anything more than a mid-card guy to me. I don't look at him and I think, oh yeah, that's the main event guy right there. I'm like, no, that's dashing Cody Rhodes or Stardust, like anything else. Cody Rhodes is this generation's Jeff Jarrett for me.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting take on it.
Because I always looked at Jeff Jarrett kind of the same way. Jeff Jarrett, perfectly acceptable as a mid-card wrestler. He knew what he was doing. He knew all the Memphis buttfuckery. But I never, one of the first times I really, really did, or one of the first times I stopped giving two fucks about WCW, it was when they were like, oh, Jeff Jarrett's going to be the world champion. I was like, he's not a world champion. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way. That's pretty much the same way I look at him. Right down to the fact that I think he is where he is also because of his familial connections. Jerry Jarrett was a loved and respected wrestler and ran the Memphis territory for years. In fact, yeah, the one story that I always went around, I think this has actually been confirmed by a couple of different people. If Vince had gone to jail for the whole steroid thing in '93. Jerry Jarrett was supposed to come in and just kind of like run the company and would just kind of like be given like quick overarching orders and being like, basically it's like you're just kind of like just helm the ship and keep it steady until Vince can get out of the can.
No shit.
Yeah, that's been one of the long-standing stories. That's according to Bruce Pritchard, who will bitch about it at any given opportunity on his podcast because he hates Jerry Jarrett for reasons I don't recall. But I always looked at, I honestly don't know if Cody Rhodes would be in the same place if Dusty wasn't his dad.
When you lay it out like that, it makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's something that's been kicking around in my head for years. I've kind of discussed it with other people. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's just the way it always looked to me, to be honest with you. Yeah, like I said, Stardust I enjoyed. Dashing Cody Rhodes I kind of dug. Cody as a main eventer, nah, fuck that.
Well, the funny thing is, the way that Rock addressed the whole thing when talking on the debut on Netflix, saying, oh, why are you being so mean to Cody Rhodes? But he gave Cody his props. Which kind of confused people a little bit because they're like, wait, whatever happened to, the final boss, whatever happened to the heel Rock, that's what we're going for. Apparently Rock turned it off for the debut on Netflix. But then when he appeared at NXT the following night, New Year's Evil, in front of the live crowd, then he apparently was going back into the heel mode. So it's like, all right, that's fine. Let's have fun with this. I would love to see The Rock show up more and more because let's face it, when he shows up, I'm excited. I'm gonna admit I'm a fanboy for The Rock, whatever the case is. I thought I was over him a long time ago, but whenever he shows up, especially when he's the heel Rock or Hollywood Rock, I'm like, oh, this is good. Let the man come out here. Let him do his thing. Like the meter automatically spikes when he shows up, so that's not a bad thing.
I think The Rock is a perfect example of how can I miss you if you don't go away.
That's fair too. Yeah,
and that's one of the. That's what I always took away from the guy. It's when he was there every fucking week, and when he was at the height of his run, it got a little bit exhausting. But
yes,
after a while, when he was only on TV periodically because it's like, well, I can make an appearance this week, and then I'll be back in 5 months to make another appearance after I got done filming the next whatever movie I'm working on. Then all of a sudden, it becomes more interesting and more fun.
Well, that's the flip side of Vince's old booking style. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to be a superstar on television, you had to be there week in, week out. You had to be shoved down everybody's throat. You had to be there to hawk your merchandise. You had to be there to push the storylines. People were terrified if they took time off that people would forget them and their spot on TV would be taken by somebody else. But it makes more sense, especially right now, if you're going to have a deeper roster. Give other people time to shine. Give other people spots on the card or on the night so they can go out there and show the fans what they can do. And then the big guys can come back here and there and just Literally, even if it's just for the ratings, even if it's just to say, oh, look, The Rock's back, or, ooh, CM Punk made a return. That moves the needle. So yes, please, let these guys have time off. Let them go rest. Let them go spend time with their families. Let them have lives outside of the ring. They're still your employees. They're under contract. Make a plan with them. Make a deal with them. I think Roman Reigns has had like one of the sweetest deals where he's a working champion, but for the longest time, he didn't wrestle. He didn't have like full length matches. And it was ideal because at that point, it made his match an attraction. Like, oh, he's going to get in the ring. He has to defend it. It makes sense that way. Pull back a little bit. I go back to Paul Heyman in ECW. The feud between Sabu and Taz back in the day for the FTW belt.
Yes.
For what was it? I think they said it was a year. They kept feuding back and forth through promos and everything else. They never actually laid a hand on each other until that one match a year into their feud. And then finally people were like, oh my God, they're going to kill each other.
Yeah, it wasn't until Barely Legal in April 97, the first pay-per-view, that was, because that was one of the big marquee matches for their first show on pay-per-view. Yep.
Yeah. Build it up like that. You don't have to have them fight. You don't have to have them confront one another in the ring until they're meant to. Build it up. Let's make it a program. You can do that with just about anybody, but you have to make it work. And by that I mean both sides have to do their part. And yeah, you can absolutely, you're right. How can I miss you if you don't go away? Rock's gone away for a while. CM Punk, by his own choice, has gone away for a while.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other people. Look, if and when they bring back Brock Lesnar, I don't know, that's kind of 50-50 right now.
Yeah.
With the court case and everything against Vince. Especially since he's been implicated in, not by direct name, but just, indirectly. If they bring him back, that's going to be a big deal because people like Brock Lesnar, let's face it. There's a number of other people. Look at Undertaker, literally just showing up on his motorcycle. Barely had anything to say other than, great job out there. And he got a big pop.
That's all he has to do?
Yeah. Then we look at Hulk Hogan, who comes on just to collect a paycheck. If you're like, just go the fuck away.
Well, I think one of the things that also is, I'd like to see a change, and I don't know if this is ever going to happen, but Vince was absolutely hell-bent on, well, you got to stay on the road. You can't get off the road. It's, I kind of always, I've heard other people pitch the idea that, not so much that wrestling has an off-season, but, like, say, for example, you have two guys, they have, let's say a 7th-month well, we'll make it easier. They'll do a couple of feuds with each other, have a bunch of matches back and forth, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, 7 months, maybe go into another program with somebody, and then be like, okay, you've been going straight for about 9, 10 months now. Why don't you take a month off? You're probably a little bit beat up, heal up a little bit, get some gym time in, and then, come back in a month or two. Yeah, it's this thing where it's like, no, you have to go to this, to this, to this, and then they wondered why. Everybody was like, well, I don't have time. I'm too beat up, and I don't have time to go to the gym all the time, so I'm going to start using the gas, and then I'm fucking worn the fuck out, so I'm taking fucking uppers to fucking get to get through the day, and then I got to take downers to fucking get some rest in, and then the next thing you know, you're completely fucked. So yeah, so maybe it's a good idea, but Vince McMahon also was an absolute fucking idiot with that kind of thing, and not saying a lot of the territory owners were any better. They were also fucking assholes with that shit, but wrestling is just a shitty fucking business full of shitty fucking people. Let's be honest here.
No, you're right. On all the counts. But I can think of right now, as you're talking about, take some time off, go away, and come back. 2 wrestlers that are anticipated to return really soon, and not even male wrestlers, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Whether you like them or hate them, they both have been gone for quite some time. Becky was supposed to be on the debut of Raw, but they held off. And Charlotte Flair at this point, she's coming back from an injury, but at the same time, like, again, whether you like the way she was booked or not, they're anticipated, so they want to see what's going to happen. They're going to see if they can work them into the Mania follow-up, or I should say lead-up. So we'll see, because those people that have been gone for quite some time, and I think even Seth Rollins was saying, look, she's been gone for an extended period of time, but it's not like she's been at home just fucking around. She's been working. She's been doing other projects. So she's been getting work outside of WWE, which there was oh God, what was it? I think there was a video online for Magic the Gathering. It was her, and I want to say, I think it was like Timothy Chalamet or somebody else, but she's playing Magic the Gathering, a tabletop game, card game, online on the channel. It's like, wait, that's Becky Lynch. Oh. So, they have other things that they can do, and that's another thing that's nice too. The fact that they can diversify and do other projects now, which is something they were not allowed to do back in the day under Vince.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, who was it? Damian Priest at one point was being courted by Marvel Studios to appear in Black Panther 2. Supposedly, he might have been one of the front runners for Namor back in the day.
Oh, let's be happy that did not happen.
I can see why he might have been, a top pick because of his size and everything, and his look, but they went a different route, mostly because Vince says no, you're not gonna take time off for that. Now, on the flip side of that, Seth Rollins is back, but he also took some time off recently. They wrote him off for a knee injury, but he apparently filmed scenes for the new Captain America: Brave New World movie that's about to release in February. But it was just announced that his role was cut. Why? Nobody knows exactly. It's like anything that when it comes to movies, production schedules changes, rewrites happen, and things get either added or taken away. And in this case, Rollins' character was written off of the movie. So it kind of sucks because people are like, oh, we get to see Seth Rollins in the new Captain America movie. I'm sure it would have been nice to cross-promote, but at the very end, it's not going to happen. He did it. He did the job. He was there. He when he talks about it, he's very vague, but at the same time, he goes, look, it's anything that I give you is my pure speculation. I don't know what happened or why it was cut, but that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, like that's cool that they have that ability to go do other stuff now. And I think that should definitely be the norm going forward. Let them have time off. Let them do other stuff. Because otherwise you're just going to work them to the bone, and then they're going to resent where they are. Look at CM Punk. So, all things said, I think it's fantastic. Whether you liked or hated the debut of Raw on Netflix, I think it's a great milestone for them. It's a good feather in their cap, whatever cliche you want to use. I just want to see where it goes from here. Now they can build up from here. Another momentous occasion for them, and hopefully the build up and lead in for WrestleMania just gets better and better, because this is the exciting season for wrestling as far as WWE is concerned. They can use this, promote more, spread the gospel more, and then from there, it's on them to make sure that they take care of their performers, give the audience what they want, and well, at the end of the day, cash in. So We'll see how that all goes.
Yep.
How do you feel, sir?
Tired.
All right, well, let's cut it there. Let's have some fun. Like I said, I might just hotshot this one ahead of the other episodes just so we can keep things flowing a little bit more freely, and we'll see what happens from there. So, as we normally say, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. My name is Eric Hernandez.
I'm Doug.
And we are the Rabblecast.